Thanks, Sophie. You're watching South East Today. Our top story tonight. Drowning, devastation. The family of a man who died in the sea trying to save his dog say they're shocked at the number of people still dying in our waters.
It was literally the sea that took him, and that's why it's so important that we're doing this, to raise awareness. It can happen to any father, any mother, any child, any dog.
A former Met Police officer denies missing a chance to stop Wayne Couzens going on to murder Sarah Everard. Southern Water's boss says he won't take a bonus and he's sorry after raw sewage was dumped into rivers and seas. We're live in Whitstable with more. Supporting families struggling with dementia, a Sussex woman launches her own charity after her mum was diagnosed with the disease. And Hidden Gems, a new documentary series, sets out to celebrate the National Trust's best-known locations and discover its secret treasures. Hello. A man from Sussex whose father drowned in the sea says he's shocked at the number of bereaved families still experiencing the same loss. Gareth Jones died in 2021 trying to save his dog, and since then his son Robbie has been tirelessly campaigning to raise awareness of the risks. It comes as new figures show that 60% of water deaths happen inland rather than by the coast, with almost half occurring during the summer months. Piers Hopkirk reports.
For Robbie Jones, his father's death trying to save the family dog from the sea at Hove remains seared in his memory.
I think he went in thinking, oh, I'll just pick up the dog, she's only there, and actually didn't realise how steep that drop was. And there was one wave that particularly hit his left shoulder. He had quite broad shoulders and kind of fizzed like champagne cork, and then you never saw him again. The whole thing was about 55 seconds.
After a major search operation, Gareth Jones's body was found 3 days later, a tragic reminder of the dangers of the water. Last year there were 597 water-related fatalities in the UK. 18 were in the southeast. Of the total deaths, 226 were accidental drownings.
It is a reminder that how perilous the sea can be, how dangerous the water can be, and that as we're coming into summer now, and people are spending more time at the beach, you know, we've got to take precautions and be safe and respect the water.
Tragedies like this are why the National Water Safety Forum has launched its latest campaign to highlight the danger of the water as the summer swimming season approaches.
We've been recording figures for the last 10 years or so, and the number of accidental drownings are slowly coming down. But that belies the fact that the volume of people utilising the water is going up. So we're seeing lots more people doing open water swimming, lots more people going out on stand-up paddle boards, and so even holding the figures at the current levels is proving a challenge.
Latest figures reveal that 60% of all water deaths occur in inland waters. 3 simple steps, campaigners say, will help reduce that toll.
The National Water Safety Forum's campaign Respect the Water has 3 main messages: call, tell, throw. If you see someone in difficulty in the water, call 999. If you're inland, call the Fire and Rescue Service. If you're at the coast, ask for the Coast Guard. Tell that person to float on their back and try and throw them something which floats, like a life ring nearby or a football.
With temperatures rising and exam season ending, water may seldom seem so attractive. The message today: be aware of the dangers and the tragic consequences that some have suffered.
Well, Piers is with me now. Piers, what's happening with the numbers of deaths in water? Are they rising?
Well, they've actually been fairly consistent if you look over the last 3 years. They've hovered at around about the 600 mark. But the reason the National Water Safety Forum are so concerned is that we're seeing this explosion in water-based activities. So things like paddleboarding, surfing, open water swimming. Now, if you factor into that things like heat waves, prolonged hot spells, and the closure of swimming pools, you'll see the number of people going into the water rising, and of course the risk rises with it. So the forum as well as putting out this water safety message today about where and when it's safe to swim, they also want to see something rather more formal in the education system. So water safety training that starts at primary school and then goes all the way through to university, matching as your risk profile changes, so the education changes with you.
Piers, thank you. A former Metropolitan Police constable accused of missing an opportunity to have Wayne Couzens arrested in the hours before he murdered Sarah Everard said she made mistakes but doesn't believe her actions could have changed what happened. Samantha Lee, who's facing a gross misconduct charge, was called to a McDonald's in Swanley to investigate after Couzens twice exposed himself to female staff there. Sarah Smith reports.
In this car is Wayne Couzens. Twice he came to this McDonald's drive-through in Swanley and exposed himself to the women working here. A few days after the second offence, he, a serving police officer, would abduct Sarah Everard from a London street and murder her. Now the Met, which has faced heavy criticism over the case, has taken a former junior officer to a misconduct hearing for the way she dealt with the events in the hours before the murder. Samantha Lee was sent to the drive-through on March the 3rd, 2021 to investigate the indecent exposure allegations, but is accused of not carrying out a thorough job. It was just a few hours after her visit that Couzens kidnapped Sarah Everard. Today, Samantha Lee's sergeant at the time told the misconduct hearing the police constable had been honest, a good team player. There'd been no complaints about her work. But she also said the system for dealing with cases had been changing all the time, painting a picture of confusion over who was responsible for investigations. Samantha Lee told the hearing she could have done more when it came to collecting evidence from the drive-through. She admitted making mistakes, but she said, "I've thought about it over and over, and I don't believe anything I could have done would have changed the tragic outcome of what happened later that day." She resigned from the police force last year and will find out the result of the hearing next week. Sarah Smith, BBC South East Today, London.
A man has admitted murdering a Sussex woman in her own home. Sabrina Cooper, the niece of the comedian Tommy Cooper, was found stabbed to death in Eastbourne just before Christmas last year. Tony King was told he will be jailed for life after changing his plea at a hearing in Lewes today. One of the dogs involved in the death of dog walker Natasha Johnston has been put down. The 27-year-old was attacked while walking 8 dogs on Gravelly Hill near Caterham in Surrey on the 12th of January. Police say her dog, an American Bully XL, has been euthanised, while 2 other dogs have been returned to their owner. The 5 other animals remain in private kennels. A disqualified motorist who drove at speeds of up to 135 miles an hour and rammed a police car on the M20 has been jailed for almost 6 years. 32-year-old Kane MacLeod from Derby was sentenced following a high-speed police pursuit in 2021 near the Darreth interchange, in which a handgun and a bag of drugs were seized. A Kent school where a mass brawl broke out among pupils has been described by education officials as unsafe. Walderslade Girls' School in Chatham was visited by Ofsted inspectors after a fight erupted at the school. A 2-day inspection found too many staff and pupils feel unsafe, with the report also highlighting continued violent and discriminatory behaviours. Tonight, the school says it has taken measures to address Ofsted's findings, as Peter Whittlesey reports.
This incident, captured on camera at Walderslade Girls' School, has been blurred to protect the identity of children. It went viral across social media. The day after, Ofsted launched an urgent inspection, giving the school just 15 minutes notice because there was serious concern about behaviour and safeguarding. The school has now been downgraded to inadequate. Jo Horden is on the parent forum. She believes the viral video triggered the urgent inspection.
It was a shock, I'm not going to lie, it was a real shock to see parents contacting Ofsted. That wouldn't surprise me. I kind of knew it was going to be bad. The school has got a lot of problems, but they're working on fixing them. It's just taking a bit of time.
The Ofsted report was critical, saying too many staff and pupils feel unsafe in this school. They have been affected by the continued violent and discriminatory behaviours of a number of pupils, and expectations are not high enough to prevent the rise in significantly poor behaviour in the school. One education expert says the urgent action taken by Ofsted is extremely unusual.
An emergency Ofsted short says there will be an inspection shortly. But to expand it on the spot says this is a crisis, and indeed if you read the Ofsted report, it is indeed a crisis.
No one from the school was available for comment, but in a letter to parents, the newly appointed head teacher said she was devastated by the outcome of the inspection. New mobile phone rules have been introduced and a hard line is being taken on violent behaviour in school.
I've just spoken to about half a dozen parents as they were picking their children up from school. None of them wanted to speak on camera, but they said they were shocked when they saw the video of the fight at the school back in February. But they believe that school is tackling the problem, and since that incident, things have got better.
Ofsted has highlighted an action plan to improve standards, and the head teacher says she's committed to moving the school forward rapidly. Peter Whittlesey, BBC South East Today, Chatham.
Rail passengers have been warned to prepare for queues and plan ahead as the train drivers' union ASLEF bans overtime. Govia Thameslink Railway, which runs Southern, Thameslink and Gatwick Express, is gearing up for a weekend of disruption as members of the drivers' union have agreed not to work over hours while a dispute over pay and conditions continues. Today, the RMT announced they will stage a fresh strike on the 2nd of June in a long-running dispute over pay, jobs and working conditions. 3 political parties are still negotiating over how Lewes District Council will be run over the next 4 years. The local election on the 4th of May left the Greens as the largest party with 17 councillors, while the Liberal Democrats have 15 and Labour 9. The 3 parties had previously run the authority together. An agreement is needed before the annual council meeting on May the 22nd, when a new leader must be chosen. Gatwick's biggest airline, EasyJet, says growing demand for holiday travel has seen it reduce its net losses. The group faced a post-taxation loss of £307 million in the 6 months to the end of March, compared with a loss of £431 million in the same period a year earlier. One reason for the improvement, says EasyJet, is that UK consumers are placing a higher value on travel since the coronavirus pandemic. Southern Water's boss has said sorry for not taking action sooner to address sewage spills and will not be taking a bonus. It comes as England's 9 water and sewage companies have issued an unprecedented joint apology after raw sewage was dumped into rivers and seas 825 times a day on average last year. Water UK, the industry body which represents the nation's water firms, announced plans to invest an additional £10 billion in a new national overflows plan to modernise England's ageing sewer network. The announcement comes after the government unveiled plans last year requiring firms to invest £56 billion in infrastructure to tackle spills by 2050.
By this time next year, we'll launch a national data hub, so that if people want to go swimming in their rivers for wild swimming, it's a fantastic thing that more and more people want to do that, or they want to take their family to the beach, they'll be able to log on and find out exactly what has happened to discharges in their area for each of those overflows to work out whether they still want to go swimming.
Earlier this week, one of Sussex's most popular seaside spots, Brighton Beach, lost its blue flag status. However, 3 beaches in Sussex won the award and 9 Kent beaches across Thanet, Whitstable and the Isle of Sheppey were presented with blue flags. However, there has been concern from residents and visitors to the area due to frequent pollution. Well, let's cross live now to Ian Palmer. He joins us from Cushing's View Beach in Whitstable. Hello, Ian. What has been the reaction to this raft of announcements today?
Ellie, sorry seems to be the hardest word when it comes to water companies and pollution. Good evening. You join me here in Whitstable, where just off the coast here there is lots of wildlife and diversity, not least, of course, the oysters, which are renowned in this area. Now, SOS Whitstable is a campaign group which is charged with trying to make our waters cleaner. Earlier I spoke to its co-founder, who said that an apology is all well and good from water companies, but really it's too little, too late.
They should be doing better. They've got a lot of catching up to do, and it's their responsibility to treat the environment responsibly. So it's not enough, and that £10 billion is quite a small number when you compare it to the amount of dividends that have been paid to shareholders over the last 30 years. So, you know, if you look at the greater context, it's pretty shameful.
We can see people behind you on the beach. What have people there been saying to you?
Yeah, they're enjoying the sunshine, Ellie, but I can tell you there's no one in the water. Now, last year there were swimmers after an outage who spoke to the BBC and said that they saw sewage in the water. Today I spoke to people in Margate who said that the apology was all well and good, but what they didn't want to see was higher bills given to the water companies just for them to do what they're supposed to do in the first place.
Yeah, we both swim in the Walpole tidal pool, and it's just not good enough. You can't swim all the time because you just know that you're swimming in poo.
It's a very half-hearted apology. They're making millions in profit.
This £10 billion investment package has to be approved by Ofwat, and if it does get the go-ahead, it only forces water companies to improve their sewage outage by 35% by 2030. So it seems as if polluted waters we're going to have to get used to for a while, and we're going to have to pay more for the privilege.
Ian, thank you very much. And you can find out if raw sewage spilled into the sea or rivers near you in England last year using our interactive map. That's available via the BBC News webpage, bbc.co.uk/news. Now, it's almost 10 to 7. A reminder of our top story tonight. A man from Sussex whose father drowned in the sea says he's shocked at the number of bereaved families still experiencing the same loss. Gareth Jones died in 2021 trying to save his dog. Today, a new campaign was launched urging people to respect the water. Also in tonight's programme, a treasure trove of well-loved locations and hidden gems. A new documentary celebrates the National Trust.
And tomorrow, some of us may pick up a little more cloud, but the sunshine is set to hold for the weekend as it gradually turns just a little bit warmer. I've got the details later in the programme.
Now, many families are in some way affected by dementia, and it can be a real challenge accessing the right care. Lucy Buck from Rotherfield set up a charity to support patients and their carers after her mother Hazel was diagnosed with the disease during lockdown. The Good Company People aims to provide advice and activities to families living with dementia to ensure they can live as independently as possible. Leanne Rinney reports.
Mummy, can I come and sit next to you?
When Lucy Buck's mother was diagnosed with dementia at the beginning of the pandemic, she said she had never felt more helpless and alone. She realised many other carers felt the same, so she started a local charity to support people with dementia and their loved ones looking after them.
Having that lived experience and actually understanding what people are going through and understanding just how hard it is watching the person that you love more than anyone fade and lose their cognitive abilities to be able to do the most simplest task is really, really tough, but actually it gives me my fuel.
The charity brings people in the community together for lunches, walks and other social activities, as well as providing free emergency respite care and advice on how to access other services.
It's absolutely delightful to be able to come to somewhere like this that creates the atmosphere that we can all join in with. A sort of meeting that provides an exercise for everybody just to try something a bit different.
She becomes an independent person. She doesn't need me here. She can become her old self. I was so unfamiliar with the condition that I didn't know quite what care in the community actually meant until I came to the first Good Company People exercise, and it was a breath of fresh air. It was a relief to see my mother change virtually 180 degrees.
charity now supports around 100 people living in the high-wheeled area. But Lucy hopes one day, with the help of more volunteers, she can provide support like this for families across the country. Leanne Rooney, BBC South East Today, Crowborough.
To football now, and Brighton and Hove Albion manager Roberto De Zerbi has been nominated for Manager of the Season. Midfielders Moises Caicedo and Alexis McAllister have been nominated for Young Player of the Season. The Seagulls are in action tonight, travelling to Newcastle United with the hope of European football very much within reach.
I have to repeat always the same, no? We are fighting for a historic target. And if we want to reach the historic target, we have to make historic results.
To them. Now there's a spotlight on Sissinghurst Castle Garden tomorrow night in a new BBC TV series documenting life behind the scenes at the country's top National Trust properties. Hidden Treasures of the National Trust follows the curators, the gardeners and the volunteers as they work to restore, renovate and uncover secret stories. At Sissinghurst, Vita Sackville West's writing room needed restoration to preserve a collection of phone numbers she'd handwritten on the wall and a treasured pot from her beloved garden that was in danger of collapse. Claudia Sabasis has more.
Sissinghurst, a place of beauty. Many of these plants and trees were planted by Vita Sackville West after she bought the property with her husband in 1930. She wrote here too, and her writing room was in need of restoration.
It's a bit of an unknown. I've just got to go slowly and humidify it, and then we'll see what happens, see if it starts to lift.
This wallpaper was surrounding much of this room before the conservation took place, and because we could see that it had Vita's handwriting on it, we decided that it was important to take off and save.
Oh, it's so hot.
It's what anybody would do. They would get a scrap of paper quickly and jot down a name and a telephone number, and that is what that wallpaper is. It's just that she didn't have a scrap of paper, so she used the wall.
The Elizabethan ceiling had collapsed too, and the walls restored to their original colour.
This is such a useful plant we can see. This is what we call yellow rattle.
Back outside, the gardens need constant care too, something gardener Troy Scott-Smith has worked on here for 30 years.
So Troy, do you still try and garden here the way that Vita Sackville West gardened when she lived here?
We try to, yeah. I suppose we have this idea that we garden with beauty and romance first, over and above process and presentation. So it's really that's our touchstone, if you like, and we then try and imagine what Vita might have done if she was still here.
And was that more her thing then, sort of beauty and romance rather than horticulture?
I mean, obviously she loved plants. She made this iconic garden, but it came from a place of this embedded history, beauty, romance, this immersive, emotional experience.
This pot features in the new series. It was in pieces and the clematis not thriving.
How old would you say this clematis is?
Well, Vita died 61 years ago this year, so it's at least 61, if not 81. This was filled with soil.
Gosh.
And I think that was part of the problem with the pot.
Gosh, it really is utterly gorgeous here today. The smells, the colours. You can see why Vita absolutely loved her garden. And she said that it made her feel optimistic. Gardeners were always hopeful that something new is going to grow or something better is going to blossom.
The whole series is about what goes on behind the scenes. Chartwell and Bateman's will also feature. But tomorrow night, the attention will be on one of Britain's most celebrated gardens. Claudia Sabasis, BBC South East Today, Sissinghurst.
Another beautiful day at Sissinghurst. Nina Ridge is here with the weather. Smiles all round. Nina, is this lovely sunny weather going to continue? I've heard a rumour we may have a nice weekend in store.
I know, another nice weekend. Who would have thought it? After all of last week's rain, I'm sure gardeners have been welcome for this drier spell. It's not too hot as well, those temperatures around average, but lots of sunshine through the day today. We have seen a little cloud building, but it stayed dry and it stayed fine. Now, high pressure will stay with us. A little fly in the ointment for some of us tomorrow, as there is this cold front which is just lurking to the northwest of us. I think it should stay away, so for most of us we are expecting another dry and a bright day. So very little changing for our weather day by day at the moment. Overnight tonight, the clearest of the skies down across the southeast corner, and so here the lowest of the temperatures. A bit of a chilly start to tomorrow morning with temperatures at around about 4 to 5 degrees. You can just see that thicker cloud by my shoulder. That is that cold front, and it just helps to keep those temperatures here slightly higher at around 7 to 8 degrees. And it is still that northwest corner where we'll see a little more cloud through the day tomorrow, and it could just be thick enough for some patchy light rain and drizzle. But across more central and eastern areas, it's another dry, fine day with some long spells of sunshine. Still that northeasterly breeze is with us, keeping temperatures across East Kent at around 16 degrees. I think temperatures tomorrow will peak at around 17. Then as we go into the weekend forecast, well, that cold front just really disappears where it is, and the high will build back in. You can see we're keeping that northeasterly breeze, but the winds start to fall a little lighter as those isobars open out through the day on Sunday. So it will continue to be a fine weekend. A lot more sunshine in store. So as we go through Friday night and in towards Saturday morning, we keep the clear spells, and so temperatures falling away once again. Saturday morning starting the day at around about 6 to 7 degrees. But very little cloud to talk of through the day on Saturday. I think we will have blue skies predominantly lasting through the day. Starting to feel a little warmer, I think, on Saturday. It is always slightly cooler around the coast where we pick up that northeasterly breeze, but across inland areas we're looking at temperatures at around about 18 on Saturday. Then as we go in towards Sunday, possibly slightly more cloud lingering out in towards the North Sea, but it is another dry, fine start, and I think there'll be some good spells of sunshine first thing, just potentially picking up slightly more cloud through the afternoon, but just fair weather cloud. For most of us it will stay bright, and I mentioned those winds a little lighter and also feeling slightly warmer. That warmer air continues to build then as we go through Sunday and into Monday as well. So by the time we get to Monday, if we take a look at the outlook, you can see we may get to around about 19, some of us possibly 20 degrees, Ellie.
A fabulous spring weather weekend. Thank you, Nina. You've made a lot of people very happy, especially me. That is it from me for the moment. I will be back with your late news at 10:30. Bye-bye for now.